Good morning, Shadow Airites, and welcome to day 2 of our World Championship. Here with me today at the butt crack of dawn is the monocle, not the monocle wearing, the balance guide Majumbo, aka Trevor,
Monocle up.
and the master of all that is good in the world, Mr. Kyle himself.
Hey everybody.
So, as you guys noticed yesterday, we are doing 2-hour rotations today. So we have one team that'll be taking over for the morning, and then later today we'll be switching off to a few different casters and just doing that throughout the day to keep things fresh for you guys, give ourselves a little bit of time to recuperate from this rough weekend, and give our ability to stream to YouTube its full functionality. I have to apologize to myself. For those of you not aware of time zones, it is currently 5:30 a.m. for myself, and like all good big babies, I prefer to sleep a little closer to 10, so I'm a little loopy still.
5:30 a.m. That is great.
I had to actually get up at 4:30 so that I'm not still groggy when I start on the cast.
Yeah, fair point.
I just want you guys to know I passed up the Doctor Who special for you guys. I actually did not watch it last night just so I could go to bed and make sure I was ready for this.
That's a really interesting point about these championships. We have players all over the world. In the finals, there was one player from China. Like me, they had to stay up overnight to play through the games. And some people in North America, it would be during the day for them. So it's really challenging and grueling to play in these championships. So I want to just give a tip of the hat to all these 16 players that have been battling it out so far.
Indeed. We talked a lot yesterday about endurance, and there at the end, how much that was going to play a factor. And I think today, that's going to be a factor almost from the start for some players. I think you're going to see some highly skilled players go down very quickly, just because the amount of time they've invested in playing in the past 48 hours is just intense.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's actually a great point about the time zone differences. It makes like all the difference in the world. It's just like 5:30 a.m. playing a tournament that time. I can't even imagine how I'd do. That would be interesting for me.
I've been to a few physical world championships, and I'll tell you they're rough to be up at the time when they crack, because you have to be there to get logged in and signed in and everything. It's grueling. It is rough.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think we successfully captured that on the digital format with this.
Well, good on us capturing stuff.
The prizes are really worth it, though. I mean, we got an iPad for the grand prize, and a lot of other great prizes, including physical play mats.
Ah, yes, we are in fact giving away physical playmats today. In fact, what say you, Kyle? We give away one of those playmats right now. One of them to a random person. To one of our 16 competitors right at the top of this cast.
That sounds like a good idea.
I think so.
How are we going to pick at random?
I'm going to let you pick at random because it's the Kyle pool way.
Alright, I'm going to find an online random number generator.
Perfect idea, actually. We can have 1 to 16 and whatever number it picks.
I've got a huge bag of dice in my room I can grab for you real quick.
Alright. And we can use this challenge bracket I've whipped up. Just threw that in chat. It has little seed numbers beside each person's name. You can roll one of these dice, I suppose, and
it is now on screen as well.
Cool. See the numbers there? Yeah, 1's Leo, 16's Black Mass. We could roll a d20 and see which one it hits. Which would automatically make 17 to 20 rerolls.
Alright, so is Kevin searching for his dice?
Yes, I think he is in dice search mode now.
So this is going to be the first of 4 playmats. So this is the woven playmat up for grabs right now. Actually, I really like the woven playmat. We got the proofs in pretty early, and the colors just look amazing when they're printed on a playmat. It really came out really good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'm definitely a fan of woven playmats, woven everything. You know, that's my thing for obvious reasons. You know, being a part of.
Of course, I'd use the Zaladar playmat with the Zaladar sleeves and Zaladar hero. Yeah, that'll be me.
Yes, the Zaladar sleeves are actually quite popular, and they're pretty cool. So did Kevin get those dice yet, by chance?
I do, in fact, have a D20 sitting in front of me.
All right, then let's roll that dice, and we're just gonna have it correspond with those numbers that we can see on the stream screen there.
And we're rolling. And 15.
15. Now, which one of them is 15?
It's like Monomax.
Monomax, and Monomax has won the woven playmat. Is that correct, Kyle?
That's right. Congrats.
Oh, congrats to Monomax. He has won himself a woven playmat.
Congratulations, Monomax.
Yay! We're going to be doing some more of those throughout the day for these top 16 guys. We got 4 to give away, and that was 1. We have 3 more to give away to them.
So, roll again 3 times?
We can do it afterwards. I think we can spread it out throughout the day.
We'll save it up then. So for those of you who couldn't make it yesterday, I figure we'd give you a heads up on how the event went. In just one quick second. So you can see here we have our big bracket from yesterday, which apparently cuts off halfway through.
Epic.
There it goes. Here we can see K. Leo just went strong through the entire tournament. Had some really good plays in the beginning, and then just straight won, and took out the tournament.
Worth noting that bracket isn't entirely accurate due to the issues we had, but the back half of it is accurate. It's just the early parts are like fake.
Trevor had to jury rig the system in order to make the challenge bracket match our forum bracket, because the forum bracket wasn't correct, so we had to switch to challenge. It was a mess.
It was a mess, but it got done. That's what matters.
It does.
Definitely got done.
So a special shout out to Trevor for taking the time to figure all that out on the fly.
Yeah, I saw the issue in the lower bracket in the forum. I mean, it was clear as day that there was an issue, and I used a program I knew would work. It just hopped on the challenge, went, that'll do it.
So K.A. Leo made a nice clean sweep up, won the entire tournament yesterday, but that does not mean he is our world champion. What that means is that he will face off against the winner of today's event to determine who is the world champion.
Indeed. Now, he might win. If he wins today, then he just wins it all immediately. He becomes the champion without the need for a best-of-7 playoff, because obviously he'd be both sides of the playoff.
So against him today, starting off, is going to be Black Mask, who got his invitation to the World Championship off of a Batteroo Resource Destruction deck.
Yes, that was actually really cool. I love that deck. That deck was exciting. I think the viewers liked it too.
I was really impressed at how well that deck ran, especially since it paired off against an Elementalis for the invitation.
Oh yeah, that was like an exciting finals, don't you think?
We do have a question in stream. Trevor, is this the final bracket, or will it get shuffled before the games begin again?
Yeah, this is the bracket. I actually shuffled it just before making it, like at 8:30. The second this stream went live is the second I made the bracket.
So there you go, guys. Figured that 30 minutes is enough time to prevent any...
Just like yesterday, 30 minutes expires when we did the bracket.
So then we were going to have A1 Justicar versus A1 Busty. Busty did really, really well in the tournament yesterday. He was against Lying Dragon in the losers round, wasn't he?
I believe so, yes. So, Busty actually came in third place yesterday. Lost to Lying Dragon, and then Lying Dragon happened to lose to Leo. And the interesting part there was that both Leo and Busty were using Amber, and Lying Dragon beat one but lost to the other.
So then we've got Jackie and Raphael Majir forming our C bracket. Pandemonium versus Lying Dragon forming our D bracket. Karopak versus Monomax forming our E bracket. Mojo Jojo 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 and Viact forming our F bracket. K.A. Henson versus Slowdown forming our G bracket. And Poochie versus iClips forming our H bracket.
Cool. So, predictions. Who's going to make it all the way and win?
Well, it's going to be kind of curious. Yesterday we saw a lot of warriors and mages running around. iClips was very solo in the fact that he had the Soul Priest in the deck, in the meta. And all the Shadow Heroes actually got knocked down to the losers bracket, I think, by round 2.
I think you might be right on that one. Yeah. Let's think. It was like Aladwin, Amber. Yeah, that sounds about accurate.
I know there was a Banebow that made it to the round 4 of the losers bracket, but I don't think that Banebow actually, or did it make it to only the round 3 of the losers bracket?
I think it made it to around round 3. That sounds about right. The losers round 3.
So it's going to be kind of interesting to see if people try more shadow decks in this one, or if they're going to stick to the same meta they ran yesterday, or if people are going to try and be a little more creative today. I mean,
I have a feeling we'll see more variants. I think with the sideboarding and the fact that everyone knows what everyone played yesterday, there's going to be a bit more of an attempt to innovate and explore new ground, because you don't want to be that guy who's just caught doing the exact same thing twice and get like hard countered out of it.
That's very true. Not only would you have the hard counters to your actual deck, but people will know you a bit more of how you play it. I mean, there was a lot of decks shown off yesterday. I mean, a lot of the variances, people knowing about your Dimension Rippers, your Larian Diplomats. If you're K.A. Leo, I would definitely have switched decks, because you know everyone out there is going to have seen it.
Yeah, they'll have full information on your deck, like, for sure.
So Kyle, any predictions on the meta today? Maybe some larger decks or more Zeladars?
I was just thinking about that. I'm pretty sure we're going to see more Fire Snakes this time.
Ah.
More Fire Snakes? It's just going to be like constant Fire Snakes.
Bonus points if it's a foil Fire Snake.
So we say bonus points. Maybe we toss out if deck lists are already submitted. If anyone tosses out a full Fire Snake, can we just go ahead and give them the buy?
If you toss out Fire Snake, you just win. You have pleased Kyle. Victory for you.
I mean, if you are going to achieve a victory, I think pleasing Kyle is one of the easiest and fastest ways to do it. It's a lot easier than beating out some of these competitors.
Yeah, that's true. You might be right on that.
So I was about to ask if anyone is predicting a surprise upset, but I think I almost have to flip that question on its ear. Is there anyone in this 16 bracket you would be shocked to see make it to the finals?
Shocked to see? You know what? Not really. Everyone has their fair shot of making it in, because everyone kind of qualified in the first place. Everybody already is a winner in their own right. I mean, just by making it here, you already have like 10,000 shadow crystals in your back pockets. I mean, they already won. Any one of them, I think, could make it.
It's a very good point. I think we are looking at an extremely high level of competition. How much do you think this is going to come down to the first 3 turns for each of them, or do you think that they're going to be running more of the mid-range, or do you think we're going to see a lot more of those super long control decks?
I think everything will matter. All stages of the game will matter because of the sacrificing decisions. These guys know how to make the best decisions possible and win with whatever hand they're given. I think at every stage of the game they're going to be outplaying each other and making it count.
So switching over to Kyle for a second. Kyle, when you first designed this game, whenever you first came up with the idea of Shadow Era and you had that first World Championship, did you ever think you'd be putting in these kinds of hours for the event?
Well, the first time it was quite a surprise how long it actually took. Of course, the game was originally designed to last 5 or 10 minutes, but in a world championship situation, people tend to take a lot longer when they're taking their turns. There's a lot of deep thinking, strategizing involved, so it does take quite a while to get through all these matches and brackets.
We definitely saw that yesterday in the Amber Mirror, where they just kept spectral sabering each other's blood frenzies, and just no draw engine was allowed to be out, and then just both kept controlling the board. High levels of play can actually take a very long time.
Oh yeah, again, it's all part of being meticulous. If, for example, you're really thinking through those sack decisions, well, guess what? That means every single turn at the start of your turn, you can be waiting like a good 30 seconds just to make that decision. And that could be the difference between winning and losing. It can be like that important at the higher levels of play.
So in this event today, Trevor and Kyle both feel free to pitch in. Do you guys think that the deck builds they bring, the way they call the meta, is going to matter more? Their sideboarding is going to matter more? Or just their straight player skill is going to be what carries them to the end?
All of the above. Yes, man, it's all of the above. It's all of it matters. It's a package deal. You can't do one or the other. It has to be everything. It has to be the sideboard, the main board, and the player's skill, all of it.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the sideboards work out. I'm not sure if people are going to use it a lot and change their deck completely, or if they're going to be more reserved and maybe just change a few cards.
That too. That's also a pointer. It's even like, how many cards do you have for each matchup? How many do you have you can even bring in that might help against a given opponent? Maybe you have like just a couple for everything. Maybe you focus really heavily on one matchup, or maybe you try to shift your strategy entirely. There's a lot of possibilities with side decking.
I think one of the biggest things about sideboarding is that we don't have it mainstreamed in a lot of tournaments just yet. So how well do you think the people are going to be able to practice with being able to sideboard, with knowing the key cards that they needed in their side decks? And then how much of it's going to be, like yesterday we saw people running Severed Ties and Larian Diplomat and Spectral Sabers in their main deck. How much do you think they're going to sub those cards out and toss them in the sideboard now to go from their own win strategies on those first games?
That's actually a great point you bring up. The idea that typically Shadow Era is played without sideboarding, and now suddenly it's in. Do they make mistakes, or do they know how to do it properly, or even build the side deck correctly? You know, that could come into play too. I'd be very curious to see how that works out and how it pans out.
I think in a tournament at this level where you need so many different skills to come to the table, I think that the people who are more experienced with sideboarding, the ones who actually took the time with their guilds and such to practice it, are going to have a bit of an edge.
Oh, that's a good point. Practicing it with your guild could be a deal breaker.
Well, I mean,
Hello, everybody. Yeah.
Hello, Lewis. Good timing.
and for those of you tuning in, Lewis, aka Soodslayer, has just joined us on the stream today. And I believe he'll be replacing Trevor during the actual streaming of the event to give Trevor's voice a little bit of rest, since he's here for the duration of the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about this. Slight confusion in time. This what happens when you set your alarm according to the incorrect schedule. I apologize about that. Yeah. As far as sideboarding goes, that's those some great points by the both of you. My opinion on it is if you introduce sideboarding, then what happens when you allow the players to cut some of that tech out of their deck and to focus even more? so that they don't have to main deck stuff like sever ties or more smashing blows and stuff. That they can move all that stuff to the board and they can focus for game one in a match. Does that change how they play a little bit and adjust in the game, in the first game, to kind of steal a game when their opponent might not have the tech main decked because they do have access to it in a sideboard?
Well, I've always been more of the school of you still carry some tech in your deck, even with a sideboard, just because that way you can still win that first game, you can still pick up the first win, and then sideboard harder to make that second win a little bit easier to pick up. That's just always been the school I've ascribed to.
Yeah, I'm from a similar school where similar, but where you keep a small amount of tech main decked, just so that you're not completely blown out in the first game against something that you weren't expecting to see, but you do have much more of it in the sideboard. So, in like we saw yesterday in Amber versus Aladwin, if you were Aladwin in that match, you might not have two sever ties in the same way that Lion Dragon had. You might have maybe one, but have maybe two or three more in the sideboard. So it allows you to kind of free up an extra deck slot for maybe an extra retreat or an extra Nova or an extra 2 or 3 cost out. Just kind of focus your strategy a little bit more.
So, Kyle, kind of switching over to you for a second because you know all things development for us. You think sideboards are going to be something we eventually submit or support in the actual tournament structure?
That's a good question. I'm sure a lot of players would like to see that. It is fairly difficult to implement just because you have to do a whole other sort of deck building interface within the tournament. You have to let players lock in their deck plus their sideboard. You can't just let players create any deck they want. They have to submit and lock their sideboard as well. So if there's a demand for it, for sure, we'll listen to that demand and go where the demand takes us.
That is fantastic news. I mean, obviously there's development issues, but I think if we can get the Kickstarter especially going with that extra funding, I think that, as you said once, with Kickstarter money, anything's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another situation where the Kickstarters really can help us achieve what we want for the game and what you guys want for the game, so it can be richer and deeper and better for everybody.
That is indeed true, and we are currently setting up to begin watching our first matches in just a few moments, getting our background set up, getting those players ready, so I hope everyone's ready to go.
Same here. I'm curious to see, after yesterday's really heavy and grueling and long event, does that translate over to some people being weary and tired and not making as tight decisions as they were earlier in day one?
I think we're going to be looking at a whole new meta, and it's going to be kind of fun to watch. With that in mind,
yes,
perhaps we should start our viewers off by watching see how KA Leo is about to do. Kind of kick things off with the winner of yesterday and move on from there.
That sounds fair. Let's start with. It's always good to start with where you finished, and we can start there right now.
Well, the game hasn't started yet. They still have a few minutes, but I think that'll be a great place to start off with.
Guess we have a whopping 4 minutes to go until it starts.
Are you having to hold them back at the line, hold them back with bits in their mouths, Trevor?
Oh yeah, I just told them 4 minutes to go. Soon.
Mr. Majumbo has a checkered flag, and he's holding it.
This just in, Monomax is happy to have won his playmat. He is jazzed up that he got the Wolven playmat.
Congratulations again to Mono Max for his being the lucky number on the dice.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Still miss days of throwing the eraser against the wall. That was great times. Great times.
Ah, memories.
Indeed.
I'd also like to just do a shout out to my fellow Wolven here. It's been a rough past couple of days. I think we all can attest to this. To the, what was it yesterday? A 9-hour Skype call that we had going by the end.
Close to 10, actually.
So props to you guys. We're almost through November. We've almost finished the World Championship. So special shout out to you guys for pushing through on this.
Yes. Thank you as well, sir. You are one of the team, and you have been there through it all with us all. And special shout out to you fans who have stuck with us through all these streams and all these events, and who are looking forward to seeing a champion crowned at the end of it.
You know, that's actually a really good point. We talk about how we set the event times for today and yesterday specifically to show the endurance of the competitors and to give them both an equal footing on good and bad start times. Those of you viewing have made those same times. Those of you viewing are still showing that level of commitment, and we thank you for that. And you always talk about how we are a community-supported game, and we love you guys. We love you long time.
Absolutely. We always love the fans. We always do what we can to kind of accommodate them and appease them as much as possible. I'm curious though, as we were talking about yesterday's event and how it impacts today. I'm wondering if we talked about how the endurance may be a little bit weary now. I wonder, does the opposite come into play as well? Does it impact somebody as in they're actually, hungrier now? They're a bit more inspired to try and push through so that they can win it now. They didn't have a strong performance yesterday. Such as iClips and Jackie, who I believe lost in the first round of the winners bracket and the losers bracket. The two trying to really kind of hone up and tune their decks and see if they can push through.
Well, at this point, honestly, if I'm starting to feel the fatigue, I'm going to fall back. I'm going to pick one of my decks that I know I'm comfortable with, something I could seriously... The deck I play when it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I decided to pick up the middle of the night game, that's the game that's the deck I'm bringing today. The deck that I am completely able to pilot with my eyes closed without even thinking, because that's the one I need to get me through at this point.
That's true. I mean, right now one of the big factors is picking a deck that you're comfortable with, something that that you're used to decision making, that it's not going to rack your brain for each turn, something you can, maybe something that you use for ladder climbing.
Well, it's not just ladder climbing. We talk about certain people along the way have picked certain heroes. An example being, he didn't get to be here with us today, but we talk a lot whenever we talk about Banebo, we talk about Sisyphus. And now that's his hero. He's played with that hero so often that you really almost can't talk about the hero without talking about the player in this instance. So I think if I'm today, having gone to the meta yesterday, having pushed through to this point, today I'm going to go fall back to my default hero instead of trying to make meta calls.
Yeah, that's a good point there. I mean, it's entirely possible that the players were making a lot of meta calls yesterday as something that they weren't altogether sure about, but now they may just completely ignore that and just go with what they feel is outright the strongest deck, the most consistent deck against anything, and just rely on sideboards as an option to kind of adjust and accommodate for any surprises. I mean, do you think that'll that having access to sideboards will allow them to bring any different decks that they were hesitant to bring.
I think that the sideboard is definitely going to allow them to play stuff that they normally wouldn't, because you have the ability to switch things up a little bit and go a little more mainstream with your sideboard if you need to. But you also have the ability to do your weird strategy that your opponent probably isn't teched for now in that opening round to pick up an easy first win. With that in mind, Kyle, if you were at this level, would you trust the rolling pin? Would you bring the Zaladar here?
The rolling pin works as far as intimidation goes, but obviously at these levels with the world champions, they're not afraid of anything. I think they'll just look at that rolling pin and laugh.
Well, question, how would you sideboard with a rolling pin, considering the fact that you already have every card available in? How would you add more cards?
I always like draw engines with the rolling pin, so a lot of Bad Santa, of course Bazaar, stuff like that. So it depends on how the draw works. Maybe I get those draw cards that I need, or maybe I don't, so maybe I have to add more or take out. There's also the shuffle bug. If I got the shuffle bug already, then the chances are that I won't get it again, or the reverse is true. So there's a lot of strategizing that goes into that.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Shuffle bug is actually Kyle's implementation of the sideboarding. And with that in mind, our first game has begun. We are going to start off with Black Mask versus Leo, Zaladar versus Bataroo. Now, knowing that Black Mask got to the World Championship with that Bataroo, I'm personally excited to see this.
As am I. And I'm curious, do you think that, what do you think was the logic behind Leo swapping his deck, considering that he did so well with an Amber deck yesterday, and he's out of the gate running a Zaldar deck instead? Do you think there was anything that went into making that call?
I think, again, he's falling back to a deck he's probably more comfortable with. He also has that sideboard option, so he has a little bit more, because the Elementals have an excellent tech range. They just don't have a lot of it that you want to put in every deck. So I think now that he has this option to switch out heroes, the Zaldar deck's going to be a little bit stronger for him. What I'm really curious about is, in a deck where counters can be added, Black Mask going back to Bataroo saying, this is the hero that I feel comfortable with. Is that going to be the right call for him?
Agreed. That's it's really gonna be something to see, because now that he has access to two sideboards, and he kind of saw the kind of decision that you were making and the kind of level people are playing at, this may be the deck that he's just outright more comfortable playing. Because we saw that he beat an Elemental in the finals to get to this event at all.
Well, it also might be going back to a conversation we had yesterday. We were talking about, if you were already 1 up, or if you were already, 2 up on a best of 5, do you go ahead and take the risk? Do you start playing a little riskier, or do you play more conservatively? Well, at this point, with Black Mask, he really, really, really needs to go all the way today. Maybe the Bataroo is his risk. Maybe he's willing to gamble a little bit more today to try and force his way through.
Maybe. I mean, right now it's a battle of who's hungrier, who really wants to find a way to squeak that extra little bit that it takes to win them a matchup that they usually wouldn't. I mean, one of the big things that's tested when you have access to sideboards is how well do you understand the matchup? How well do you know the hero matchup one-on-one, so that you can adjust and accommodate to it when you have access to an extra set of cards to do it.
And I will say, if I'm Black Mask, I'm actually kind of happy with seeing Zaladar. Elementals, we were talking about yesterday, their draw engine is not the most instantly impactful. It's not just free cards every turn. Antimatter does take some time to gear up. Oh, and here we see it going to work right away. So that resource destruction is going to put in almost double duty on him.
Absolutely. I'm curious if now seeing how much scouting is involved in day 2, where you're not sure if people are going to be switching your decks. And in this case, where you're seeing, from Leo's perspective, he's seeing his opponent bring a deck that what we showcased on the stream quite a few times and he did really well with. Do you think that affects his sack decisions or his play decisions throughout the game?
I think absolutely. I think you're going to have looked at the players yesterday and not know the exact deck that they're going to play, but you still have an idea of how they play their decks. And you have to keep that in mind when you go into a situation like this. Now, interestingly, on the Bataru deck, you see he's not sacking up. He's not resourcing. He's just staying where he is and using those Here Be monsters to just lock Zaldar's resources out of the game, basically saying, I know you don't have a lot of low-cost curve. I know you want this to get to the mid-game with the 5, the 6, the 8 resources. I'm not going to let that happen.
Agreed. I mean, look, yeah, that's not... From Leo's perspective, I can definitely kind of see how he'd be methodical. He's taking his time with the decisions, which he did a lot of yesterday. I mean, he may well be adjusting, just kind of resourcing some of the higher end of the curve. Cards, maybe Shadow Veins and stuff like that, and just trying to keep his curve lower so that he can kind of be more aggressive and kind of compete with a lower curve.
He has to be very, very careful because he knows that Bataru has that burst damage off of his ability and the ability to heal right back up with Soul Seekers. I almost have to give an edge to Bataru. I mean, if he can get that antimatter back off the field and keep the resource curve nice and low like he has been, Bataru's going to be a force in this match.
Agreed. We see Black Mask going up in resources, so he'll be one higher, so he won't have access to the hairy monsters unless his opponent resources a card to match him. So that's something that we're not used to seeing as much out of the deck. He's very judicious with when he resources.
Now we see the 2-cost trap go down. It's either a snare trap, or if he's running the same deck he did in the qualifier, a good old-fashioned Enchanted Forest.
Yes, so it could easily be one of either of those. And we did see him on those, both of them, together in his qualifier match that he was in the qualifier tournament. So Leo does have to be mindful of the fact that it could easily be either one of those when he's deciding which cards to play. So it's a little bit of a mind game going on there.
You also have to kind of be curious if Black Mask saw his first opponent, saw it was the winner of yesterday's event, and thought to himself, that's awesome, or that sucks. I think it's more of a that's awesome situation, because if he can be the one to put K.A. Leo down into that loser's bracket, if he could be the one to make K.A. Leo lose the first game of his World Championship streak, that's an impressive thing to be holding on to through the rest of the tournament. That's an impressive psychological edge.
It is, although at this point I think they're focusing less about making a statement and more about just one round at a time, just winning their games so that they can, do what Leo did yesterday, which is just climb all the way across the winner's bracket and not have to see the loser's bracket. Just focusing one game at a time.
Well, it's also important to note that where K.A. Leo yesterday had to play all the way through 7-8 hours of tournament, having only that 1 hour to actually take a break and get himself something to eat. Black Mask, unfortunately, did go out relatively early in the tournament, had that chance to rest up the rest of the day, to actually go about his day to get food and water and recuperate. So he's coming at this just that little bit fresher today.
Yes, and that little bit of energy and that little bit of rest could mean a world's worth of difference when it comes to playing at such a high level.
Oh, and there we see the Enchanted Forest already putting in work, just denying Zaldar that critical extra draw.
Yeah, well, we're going to see he's going to go for it anyways. Now, you gotta wonder if you're Leo, if you're a little bit concerned about whether you're playing the card that really kind of stole some wins for him in the last event where he played a Night Prowler, knowing that you weren't able to put a threat down to kind of keep him honest.
That is my big concern right now if I'm Leo. I'm really scared that he's about, and
And
calling
he
it as
does.
well as you do, there is the Night Prowler. Gonna do some damage, get himself a free card. Now, what would have terrified me if I'm Zaladar is to have seen that Shriek of Vengeance right after that. I think that that would have just about been a game for Zaladar if that had happened.
It may well have been. Right now, if you're Zaldar, if you were keeping track of what you had in your hand, you know what he took from you, and you're shaking your fist at you have to either beat it or you don't have it to use to beat him anymore. But
Well, you also have to take
depending
into
upon-
account that you need that now you don't have the option to play threats. You can't just bide your time and use your health as a resource a little more. You have to get an ally onto the field right now, just to keep that Night Prowler from doing any more damage.
well, exactly. I mean, you have to wonder if he held on to. Well, that'll do it.
Now there was
I
a
was gonna say-
surprising leyline nexus on the Night Prowler.
Well, not too surprising. I anticipate him having some ley on.
A second Night Prowler and a trap to pair with it. He's going to put a little more damage on the hero, get himself another free card, and do that more damage to KA Leo's position.
Well, considering that his opponent was likely had lots of weapons and a decent amount of targets at 5 cost or more, him holding on to a Leyline Nexus is reasonable, but I was hoping that maybe he had Shadow Vein or something of that ilk to kind of swing in and deal with Night Prowler once and for all. But that Leyline there proving that, one Night Prowler is good, but 2 is better.
Indeed. I wonder if what the line of thinking was on holding on to that Night Prowler. Was he intending for it to get destroyed and replayed, or was it just he hadn't had a chance to sacrifice it and that ended up paying off?
It may be. I mean, and there's a snare trap to
Putting in
allow
amazing
Night
work.
Prowler to keep just attacking his hand.
There we see another weapon. Oh, and a threat dropping at the same time this turn.
Yeah. You gotta wonder at what point does Leo just concede this game and start looking forward to the second one.
It's a long way from over, but if I'm Leo, I'm definitely not happy with how this one has gone so far.
Absolutely. I mean, another thing you have to be mindful of is that which cards do you think that that Black Mask may be stealing that may actually be good against Zaldar? I mean, there are some heroes who run cards that are actually good when used against them. Mages, as one example, where that fireballs and their own cards are pretty decent when used against them. I wonder how that pans out for Baru here. Or for Zaldar when facing the Baru.
Oh, and as predicted in the stream chat, a mind control drops, putting in so much work, getting rid of the Night Prowler, wearing down the durability on that Soul Seeker, and removing the threat from the field. Do you think that was like that losing that Night Prowler is going to hurt Bataru, or has it already done its damage?
I don't think it hurts him a lot. I mean, if you're Black Mask, you're showing a little bit of a tear that the Prowler didn't really end the game in a way it possibly could have. But you were able to steal a couple of cards off of it, and that did suck up your opponent's entire turn, and you do have access to their antimatter, which you stole from them as one card.
And it's
as well
already
as-
putting in work right now, giving you additional card advantage.
Indeed it is. Yeah, as well as a second card in hand that you stole from them.
And Batter doesn't seem willing to let up just now. He's going to drop another threat down to the board. And keep on to that Soul Seeker. Hold on to that extra little burst of damage just in case.
Indeed, he's not going to just swing in. He's going to hold on to it just in case another mind control comes down so that he can use his ability again for full value.
Here we see Leo's having to take the time to really plot out his decisions. He's finally getting up to his curve. He's finally getting into a point on the resources where he's happy, but it's taken him a little bit longer than normal to get here, and Badaru's definitely done a really good job of leveraging that to his advantage.
Absolutely. I mean, so far, Badu has played the game that he wants to play. He's kept the resource curves relatively low. He's had some disruption with the Night Prowlers, and he's just slowly chipped away with his weapons, which is the exact style he wants to be playing. Not as many traps as we saw him previously use, but that may be an adjustment on his part, or in deck building, or that just may be a function of him not seeing them yet.
Well, it could also be the fact that he hasn't prioritized them on this, knowing that Zaldar tends to run a higher curve on things. He's been letting more traps go. As we see there, the snare trap going to the graveyard off the antimatter pool. And it's important to note he still has access to one card from Zaldar's hand. So Zaldar, I'm not sure if he's playing around it or he's trying to play through it.
Agree. I mean, there's nowhere to know exactly what that one card is.
Black Mass taking his time to do the combat math, making sure he makes the absolute most optimal play, which currently is telling telling that antimatter that it's not allowed to stay on the field.
Agreed. Yeah, I wonder if. Yeah, I wonder, between destroying the antimatter or maybe using the Mortal Acolyte's ability to get rid of the gargoyle that might have been difficult to get rid of otherwise, and is likely to be difficult to get rid of, considering that the Mortal Acolyte's probably not going to survive the turn. I wonder if, letting the gargoyle live might come back to haunt him.
I'm doubtful. Obviously, if he's letting the gargoyle live, there's a danger to his weapons, but at the same time, he may have more weapons in hand that he can just play through that gargoyle. He has a lot of options on it, so I'm curious if that gargoyle is going to end up being a problem.
Agree. I mean, hopefully before the end of the match, we're able to see what that one card in hand that he stole is, and he's really holding on to.
And there we see him leveraging a Fury and Terror beautifully into a board wipe.
Indeed, indeed.
Fury and Terror, an intelligent play, but is also going to heal Badaru back up a little bit. So he traded a little bit of his life advantage to get back onto the board.
Agreed. And we're seeing his antimatter being leveraged there again for more card draw to just Black Mass to keep a full grip of cards to his opponents too. He'll have 5 after this ability. Ooh. Tossing away a weapon. Yeah, I wonder what he chose over the Grundler's double.
My guess would be that he already has a nice weapon in hand. He's very comfortable with his hand at the moment. He's going to be able to just pop it down in the next turn again. And that the idea behind discarding the Grundlers is he already has a draw engine on the board. The Grundlers is primarily used for its high durability and its draw power. Given that, he's in a very good position.
Yeah. My guess is that he actually has 2 weapons in hand. I mean, holding on to it when you had 1 is a little bit greedy, but holding on to it when you have chucking it away when you have 2 seems a bit more reasonable. Either that, or he from the draw he got 2 weapons from it, and was unfortunately forced to dispose of one of them.
We also have to remember he has the antimatter on the field, and we've seen a sack lamb that's been in the graveyard already, so he has alternate forms of draw. He could definitely get into more weapons, just depending on what that other card he pulled was. Leo, on the other hand, leveraging a perfectly timed Santa Bomb to try and neutralize some of that antimatter's additional draw power.
Yes, and we're seeing Leo leveraging Zaldar's ability to try and create a life point disparity between him and his opponent, just kind of edge out some more advantage to make up for all the slower play turns earlier.
I'm going to drop a Thaddeus down to open that gap up a little wider and just present more threats. He knows that Badaru doesn't have a lot of options for wiping out multiple threats in a turn, so he's going to just try and put as much pressure down as quickly as he can to just shut that down.
Agree. and Black Mask adds a Thaddeus of his own to the board, as well as 1 and 2 traps, both of 2 cost. Having seen an Enchanted Oak earlier, you wonder.
And a snare trap. We have seen both traps drop already. Now, interestingly, we've seen 2 snare traps. We've seen him discard 1 to his antimatter, and we've seen 1 get used against a gargoyle. So it's going to be kind of curious if he has another snare trap down, or if they're both enchanted forests.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Leo, you're a little bit. It plays a little bit of a mind game with you, because you might not be able to play mind control effectively, or you might not be able to add more threats to the board effectively because of which trap it is. So that may be something that comes into play with how he decides how to play this turn out.
If I'm Leo, you also have to not only consider what the traps are, but what the next turn is. A Fury and Terror hitting the board would be and there we see immediately the Enchanted Forest is deflected off. Now, if you're familiar with Standard Resolution Order, you might even be able to predict what the next trap is just based on that play.
Yes, if you're paying close attention, you should be able to predict exactly which trap that is, and that may be able to allow him to play around it a little bit better. But considering what that trap is likely to be, it's going to be unfortunate for Leo to have to play around it, or just maybe play through it.
I was kind of shocked by Leo's decision not to sack up. Personally, I would have sacked 1 more up in the hopes of grabbing a Fury and Terror. That way I could clear that gargoyle off the field once and for all and got a little health back. Instead, he's choosing to try and close the disparity gap between he and his opponent.
Yes. And one of the things that we're seeing now, that not quite yet, but it's going to be relevant shortly, is that they're both in their bottom 10 of their deck. They're both getting to the nitty-gritty, and they're running out of ammunition. Not yet, but soon.
Well, see, if I'm Batter, I'm actually very, very, very happy to hear that. If I'm Batter, I've got a weapon or 2 left in hand that I can start putting a little more damage out. I can burst a little bit better, and as long as Zaldar starts to run out of threats, I'm ecstatic. I'm fine with the super long game plan. My biggest concern is going to be if that Zaldar runs Eternal Renewals or Soul Releases.
Yep. Yes, the Eternal Renewals
Soul
are
Reaper,
something that...
sorry.
Yeah, the Eternal Renewal is going to be really a heavy blow to Bedu, knowing that all the mind controls and the shadow fonts and the gargoyles and the Thaddeus, they're all coming back, and having to kill them all again, that may be a too tall of an order to ask. However, playing Soul Release, that may be a tall order as well, just completely refilling his life.
And there we see the Gargoyle choosing not to attack into the Batter, didn't want to put itself in Soul Reaper range, and Soul Seeker range, and ended up not mattering. The Fury and Terror drops and cleans up the board for him.
Yeah, I mean, you guys see that as this Batter likes to keep the resource curve a little low and hit for loss damage early and use Night Power for some disruption. And Zaldar likes to have a higher resource curve and play more of a controlling style late in the game. I wonder if playing this style kind of feeds into what Bedru wants to be doing. Or does it feed into what Zaldar wants to be doing?
There we see the Mind Control dropping for excellent leverage, getting 1 health off, the ally off, and the Soul Seeker all off at the same time. Batter immediately answering with a new weapon and a new ally. Importantly, an ally that's completely immune to Zaldar's ability, so it's going to take Zaldar a little more effort to put it down. We've seen a lot of mind controls already, both from the being discarded and played. Is Zaldar going to have enough to get rid of that Disciple?
That's going to be a little bit rough. He might have it that I have tragically lost count, so that might be his last one if he does. But
and there we see he's digging. He's going to thin out the deck a little, thin out both players' decks a little more, make this game a little quicker.
Indeed. Um, as from Leo's perspective, that last turn, I'm slightly happy with him playing the Disciple because he could have played a third Night Prowler, and that would have been very devastating considering he had so few options left in his hand and deck altogether, and just losing any of them is very, very rough.
That I completely agree. A Night Prowler right now would be just about enough to seal the game up. Honestly, though, what I'm more concerned about is the fact that I only have 2 cards left in my deck, and with only 2 cards left, that means 2 turns, assuming no one hits me with another bad Santa before I start taking deck out damage. And Bataru has enough damage on the board to really, really even that out. And there we see
Well,
the Soul Reaper dropping.
Yes, the Soul Reaper has come down, and as predicted, it refilled Zaldar's health.
I wouldn't go so far as to say refilled. It did give him a nice, healthy amount, but Bataru has enough damage on the board right this second to take away a large chunk of health again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by refill, that it put him back up to his maximum, but he's not going to stay there for long. And we've seen him just expand his board presence with adding another Disciple.
Zaldar opting to go ahead and do the renewal, get his deck back, give him some more options and threats to play. Whereas Banebo is out of deck and only has the field now.
Well, as the primary way for Leo to get rid of each Disciple is Mind Control. Playing the Soul Reaper when he did that does thin out his deck so that has a higher likelihood of drawing Mind Controls now.
Interestingly, there we saw Black Mask did not sacrifice. He did not play anything from hand. He just let what was on the field go for damage and stop. That's going to stop him from taking any deck burn on the next turn. That's going to make that last turn a lot more relevant.
And there we see one of the Mind Controls that I'm not sure if that's one he just drew, or if that's one he was holding on to, as he's likely to be drawing into several more.
There we see again, not bothering to sacrifice anything, just going to keep playing what's on the field into more damage. Try and thin that Zaldar's health down as quickly as he can.
Yeah, at some point you gotta wonder if Black Mask has enough ammunition left. Does he have any other weapons? If he does he have more than one? Because we know there is a ley line somewhere in the 13 cards that Leo has access to.
Very true, but it's also important to note Zaldar has 14 health. Leo has cut him back in half in just a few turns. He's trying to make a very quick game of it because he's already on the clock. Once he summons that next weapon, he's taking damage at the start of every turn. More if as KA plays or Leo plays more of his bad Santas.
Yeah, so this is a match that's definitely going to come down to the wire of how do they both decide to close it out.
There we see the Fury and Terror drops and an instant sack lamb to refill Zaldar's hand. Part of his strategy to thin that Disciple of Aldmore down just a little bit more to put it in kill range for another ally.
Yeah, and
the abilities used to thin out Black Mask's life make sure it's going to be just that much harder for him to make stagey comeback at this point.
Yes, well, we do know that there is a Shadow Font in there somewhere, so he may have that in hand as well. And we're seeing him just go all out, if you have to use one card, you might as well use several.
He's playing that second ally, because if he didn't, the Grundler's Double would deal him damage at the end of his turn.
Yes.
Whereas by playing that extra Gargoyle, Grundler's Double isn't going to be dealing him any damage. And Zaldar just uses his ability. It's pretty fair chance that Gargoyle is going to survive a turn to put in a little bit more damage.
Agreed. I wonder, did Leo catch the Mind Control? Much needed Mind Control, mind you. No, but he did catch the ley line. And there's the aforementioned Shadow Font.
This game is going to be incredibly close.
This for your first game, I think you picked to go, and this is definitely going to go down to the wire.
I am going to have to give the edge to Zaldar right here, primarily because he only needs to charge up his ability one more time to be able to, for Bataru just to be dead, whereas Bataru needs to drive home with a weapon and those allies a whole nother round.
Agreed. Zaldar using his ability one time now,
And there's
and
the font. That's going to
just
let
ends the
him mop this game up, and Leo continues his winning streak.
not content to win to deck damage, he decides to play the mind control as well to end it.
I'm curious if the mind control was the card he just drew, because it's more of a, you know what, Aldmore? No, you're not going to stay there for this entire game. You're getting off the field.
Absolutely, he's ending the game with vigor, if you will.
So for those of you who are watching the stream live, we have some results for you. It seems Lying Dragon has put Pandemonium down into the loser's bracket with a 2-0 sweep, and Slowtown has done the same for K.A. Henson with another 2-0 sweep.
Yes, so in the time that took for us to showcase that one match, there are a few decks and players out there that are playing relatively quickly and has, you know, a little bit less intricate matches that are sitting waiting for the next round.
Indeed. So if you're K. Leo, if you're Black Mask, what are you thinking about for your sideboard right now?
Well, if I'm Black Mask, I'm thinking that as he's running Zelda, I didn't really see anything that surprised me. And as you know, having won that tournament against an elemental, he's relatively familiar with the pool and how they choose to play against him. I'm thinking that maybe I'll side in maybe an extra weapon or two, maybe, or to combat with stuff like ley lines, or some more disciples, maybe some more goggles if I don't have a full playset. Just stuff that's really resilient to his threats. Maybe some enchanted oaks, maybe stuff that might help against the fact that Zaldar has a high curve and plays a lot of high cost abilities and removal, like stuff that's good against stopping a 5-cost mind control. So those are the type of things I would look to side in if I was Black Mask. For Leo, I'm thinking that we're just going to see an awful lot of item removal coming in. Maybe some acid jets, maybe some more ley lines, just stuff to really help him combat the onslaught weapons he faced in the first game and that he's likely facing in the second. He might even actually decide that he wants to lower his curve so that he can play around stuff like heavy monsters and Cobra Skin Wraps, maybe. Or, as somebody in the chat mentioned, maybe some weapons as well so that he's not, quite living in fear of Night Prowler. So that Night Prowler doesn't really have the opportunity to kind of steal a win. But he can steal this away.
Personally, if I'm Black Mask, I'm going to kind of agree with you. I'm going to look at my deck. I'm going to say, okay, the snare traps are good, but I might sub those out for a few more enchanted forests because stopping those shadow fonts and bad Santas was so effective for him. I'm definitely going to up my numbers of Shriek of Vengeance. We only saw one in that game. Admittedly, the one was only one he needed, but it came very, very late in the game, and I would have liked that a lot earlier to shut down that antimatter completely.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if how much item destruction Black Mask is running, but I don't know how much he would really want to be running this match, knowing that his opponent might not have a ton of targets for it. So I don't know how he decides to play around it, or to maybe just cuts it all together.
Well, it's not so much that he needs a lot of targets for it, so much as he just needs it with the turn he needs it, and then after that it can almost be sack bait.
Maybe. And there are definitely cards that they can side in to make the matchup that much more difficult for their opponents. So it'll be interesting to see that, having access to sideboards now, something that's not traditionally used in Shadow Era, how they really adjust what it was they decided to put in their sideboard. I mean, maybe they didn't put in a lot of cards that are relevant for this matchup.
Well, from Zaladar, there's really not a lot of things I can put in that are relevant for the matchup. You can put in weapon destruction, but that's really only half of what Bataru's doing.
Exactly. I mean, I wonder if he has some sort of answer to the disciples, because anticipating he might end up playing against a playset of them. That may be something that's difficult to combat.
So, just a side note out there, we are getting reports and a few verified sources that we are able to be watched on the mobile stream. So, for those of you out there with iOS or Android applications, if you want to boot up the Twitch app, give it a shot and see if you could watch the live cast and get back to us, we would very much appreciate it.
Yes. We have shown that we have confirmed that we were able to watch the live stream on iOS, on tablets, or on iPads. So if you can stream it on another device, feel free to drop in the chat and let us know. It'd be awesome if I have us kind of exactly where we're viewable, so we can adjust and kind of plug accordingly.
As a primarily mobile game, is something I think that a lot of people play on mobile normally. I think being able to stream to that will be a huge boon for us.
Absolutely. Wow, the GDC in the chat mentions that he has a first generation iPad, and I don't know, and it works on his iPad. I don't know if to applaud him being able to stream it, or to applaud him for still having a first generation iPad.
I can't make fun of him. My tablet is still the first generation Galaxy tablet.
Yes, iOS versus Android. The battle continues.
It's not a battle. Each person has their own needs and preferences, and mine happen to fall in line where Android is. I'm just noting that I have also quite an old tablet that still works for me.
Well, yeah, it suits your needs. Go right on ahead, sir. Yes, we were getting some confirmations trickling in from the chat that they're able to watch the stream on iOS, on iPhones as well, and we are happy to be able to do it.
We have some chat commentation going on saying that Zaladar should be running the weapon, or running some weapons to help end that hunter armor, and that Bataru needs to toss in some Spell Eater bands to just deny Zaldar's ability any traction, and that's actually a really good call.
Yeah, Spell Eater bands may be something that was worth having in your sideboard. Not exactly for this matchup though, but it may be something that he may think to, if he elected to have it, he may think to side in, as it slows down Zaldar using his ability to the hero in the way that he used to win that match there.
Very much so. I mean, especially if you could get that Disciple of Aldmore and that Spell Eater band side by side, Zaldar is just taking up shadow energy with nowhere to put it.
Yes. And we were getting a couple of results in. Jackie has beaten Rafael Majira 2-0, and A1 Eclipse has beaten A1 Pucci 2-0 as well.
A lot of nice clean sweeps so far. I think that you're seeing the that first match's tech mattering a lot, because the players who lose that first match then have to enter into a game where your opponent is teched very hard against you. And we're seeing a lot of 2-0 sweeps right off the start.
Yeah, and the sweeps we're seeing, a lot of it's from players who lost out of the winners bracket early yesterday. Yeah, I wonder if they adjusted their approach, or if that extra amount of rest really has paid dividends and has helped them out a lot.
And here we see, pulling it up and looking at the The brackets for the next rounds, we see Jackie and Lying Dragon to be facing off. Looks like Slowtown and Eclipse are going to be facing off. Kind of fun that the brackets that aren't done are all paired against each other still.
Yeah, I mean, well, looking Lion Dragon and Jackie, that's going to be a very, very hard fought and tough match, as both those players are top tier competitors and very, very well respected tournament individuals.
Well, hopefully the K Leo and Black Mask match will finish up relatively quickly, and we can tune in and catch a part of that.
Yes, hopefully we didn't jump into the round that's going to take the match that's going to take the longest, so we can have a chance to kind of spy a couple of the other ones.
I think it is going to end up taking the longest. That's just an unfortunate side effect of Bataroo's strategy of denying draw engines and resources. Is just the games are designed to take a while with him. I wouldn't call it a bad thing though, because while they do take a while, they're very back and forth and very interactive, and I hope fun for both sides.
Agreed. I do believe that they are ready to start their
Giving it just
match,
a second to make sure that they have the right first player.
Yeah, so they are looking forward to starting. So see if the match is up.
And just bear in mind, guys and gals, in about 45 minutes we will be switching streamers. Lewis and I will be taking off so that GDC and Mojumbo can hop on. And Kyle will do whatever he wishes, because we don't tell him what to do.
Yes. That's a very good point. I'm going to be sticking around in the background and chiming in whenever there's something interesting going on.
Indeed, Kyle will be around to grace us with nuggets of wisdom and awesome insights throughout the entire day and the evening for him.
Personally, I'm a little bit disappointed by the amount of trolling Kyle's done to us so far. He was the original forum troll, so seeing him so reserved is kind of just heartbreaking.
Yeah, for me, it's the nighttime already. It's almost 10 o'clock at night, so that has a big impact on my trolling abilities.
As someone who is currently debating if I can see, I can't actually see the sunrise outside my bedroom window right now, so I completely understand on your reservations at the moment.
Yeah,
it looks like right Black Mask and Leo have begun their game.
Yes, they have. Yeah, the way I see right now, Kyle doesn't have much to say because he's not impressed by any of you right now.
All these Zaladar decks are too small.
Yes, he demands more cards. All cards.
All your cards are belong to us?
Yes.
Here we see Bataroo kind of taking a different start than he did last time. In the previous game, his first three turns, I believe, he did nothing, letting Zaladar get some presence on the field. In this game, he's immediately dropping trap after trap, just saying, you know what, no, this game is not going to go like the last one.
Well, I believe turn 3 in the last game he played a Here Be Monsters, but in this game he's electing to go the trap route and actually skipping his resourcing phase in his third turn so that he can have access to the likely Here Be Monsters on his turn 4, which is when he will likely go up to 3 resources. And if you're Leo, who possibly sided in more item destruction, you're going to be facing an awful lot of traps and an awful lot of ways to really. It's gonna be an uphill battle because your opponent will likely have much more items than you have removal for them. So
well, in this instance, you have to be concerned that one of those traps is an enchanted forest. So if you have item destruction, you want to get it out as quickly as possible, just to get that enchanted forest out of play, so you can use your item destruction when it's critical. And there we saw a snare trap already puts in work and keeps the board clear and pushes the game out a little further for Bataroo.
Yeah, and even better, we saw snare trap get rid of one of the main threats that Zaladar has in this matchup that Bataroo does not want to see. Is in a gargoyle that is particularly difficult for Bataroo to deal with his weapon, having to take at least 2 shots and not easily killed in one turn.
We have a question in chat. Does Spell Eater Band's armor work against heroes' abilities? The answer is yes. Any hero ability that deals damage to a hero is negated by Spell Eater Bands, I believe, except Banebow.
Yes.
which
It,
relegates it to pretty much it prevents Zaladar's ability.
yes, in this matchup, it is a card that Zaldar does not want to see, as it slows his ability down to a crawl.
And there we see the Enchanted Forest immediately blocking a spell and putting in lots of work right off the start.
Interesting. We have not seen one of Radu's infamous resource destruction cards yet, and that was his turn 5, I believe.
Well, notice he's still staying even on resources with Zaldar, even though he's going first. That's giving him a little bit of extra card draw, kind of negating a little bit of the second turn advantage. What's really strange is he just had his ability charged and did not drop a weapon.
Yeah, if you're Leo, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him not using it there. So that means he likely does not have a weapon to use it on, and that allows me a window to kind of press, a small amount of advantage there, because knowing that I could possibly go up to 5 resources now and have access to stuff like Fear and Terror or Mind Control, which probably want to hold on to. But with access to stuff like that, where his opponent, who is a weapon hero, does not have a weapon, and we have not did not resource, and we have not seen heavy monsters or anything of that nature in this game yet.
There we see he's charging up his ability with the Shadow Font, basically saying, now I've got some energy, now I'm going to deal some damage with it. Humorously, though, he still has nothing on the field yet.
Nope, but in spite of that, if I'm Leo, I'm actually comfortable with where I'm sitting right now. And
Baru again, no sacrifice phase, using that extra little bit of card draw. Gets a few more threats on the field, basically taunting Zaldar, saying, if you're not going to play allies, I am.
Yeah, worth noting that he did not resource again. He's just keeping his curve a little bit low. And in this case, the Zaldar matched him by not resourcing last turn as well. He has the ability to resource this turn, but he chose not to last turn.
And there we see yet another snare trap, keeping the board nice and clear. Zaldar's ability going in to thin it out just a little bit, try and keep it from getting too overwhelming.
Yes, if I'm Badru here, I'm actually happy with both targets that the snare traps got. They both got gargoyles, which realized that were going to be very difficult for me to deal with anyways. And adding a gargoyle of his own, which is another ally that Zaldar has difficulties dealing with.
If I'm Zaldar, I'm kind of torn on how this match has gone. On one hand, you haven't seen a weapon yet, which a Grundler's Double at this point would be just a devastatingly effective weapon. But at the same time, you're seeing Banebo charge up so much energy that he'll be able to play his weapons back to back, which devalues my item destruction.
Well, it doesn't devalue it too much, considering that he has not played one yet, which means that in all likelihood he hasn't seen one yet. Which means if he does play one and you remove it, in all likelihood he'll have to top deck into another one.
But that's the question, has he not played one because he doesn't have it? Or is he not playing one because he knows that if he plays it this turn, and then plays it the turn after, you won't be able to destroy him that quickly. You'll be forced to be the one that's searching for answers.
Maybe. We're seeing Leo electing to be the first player to go up to 5 resources, while Black Mass is still comfortable staying at 3. And he's just gonna swing in here just so that he can mind control the Gargoyle, which is an ally that, for Leo, you have a hard time dealing with as well. The Gargoyles may well be the MVP of this match, and they are being shown equal respect to that title.
It's been a very, very interesting back and forth game so far. Leo is definitely having to pay a lot of respect to the board right now, and it's kind of interesting. I still didn't see that weapon out of Bataru, so I'm curious if he maybe took some weapons out for his sideboard, and now it's costing him because he's just not drawing into them.
Maybe. As we are using sideboard, there's no way to know what his sideboarding logic was.
There we see again a snare trap taking out a nice threat, just keeping the board open for that Morbid Acolyte to put in a little bit more damage. This is a currently been a death race, but it is the slowest death race I've ever seen in my life. There we see, there's the Grundler's double dropping.
And if you're a Black Mass, that's the exact weapon you want to see, as it's, unless you play another ally, it'll replace itself immediately in your hand this turn.
I think I was really hoping for that Here Be Monsters right there. Thin out my opponent's resources, cycle itself, used my perfect resources, and gave me a card back. That would have been the perfect card to finish out that turn.
Yep. And there's the Arm Destruction that we all figured that Leo was holding on to.
Absolutely. He had to hold on to that. He had to play it just then. But now he's a question on his ability. Does he clear the board of that Acolyte? Or does he save that ability to hope to ping 2 allies with it, make it a little more valuable?
Well, he's going to elect to save the ability, as although he has taken a decent enough amount of damage, he's not in immediate danger.
There's that Here Be Monsters I was hoping for last turn. Most likely using it just then to fish for an additional weapon, which it looks like he may not have gotten.
Indeed, it looks like he may not have gotten it. And, just the destruction of the resources, just, extra little jab there to Leo, who now has to spend another card, or the resourcing if he wants to go back with 5, which he's electing to do.
There's the Fury and Terror, wiping out that Morbid Acolyte while reserving Zaldar's ability. A very nice play on his part.
Yeah, you wonder if Black Mask has drawn into another weapon by now, so that he could answer the Fury and Terror swiftly.
Taking his time, picking which target needs that extra little point of damage on it. And he chooses to go for the hero, no doubt because he knows if he does have a weapon at any point, he's going to be able to take the Fury and Terror out with that weapon in one shot.
Agreed. He may be using that as a way of trying to suck us some damage away from his hero, so that he could deal with the Fury with a weapon, instead of having to worry about taking 4 from the Fury and plus any damage from maybe Shadow Vein or maybe something else.
If I'm Black Mask, I'm very sad about the lack of weapons I've seen so far.
Yeah, if I'm Black Mask, I haven't played this deck as much as he has. This is a position he has been in before, and you don't like being in, but there are ways to adjust to it. And tragically, one of the downsides of this position is it does allow Leo time to draw into all of his item destruction, so that you can't really push your items as heavily for an advantage.
And there we see a Karash with 5 resources and not much else. Kind of telling there, because that pretty much means that Leo is holding on to a handful of answers, which, as Black Mask, is making me nervous, because those 2 allies are enough of a threat that if I don't get my own threats soon, I'm in trouble.
True. However, for Black Mask, what this does mean is that although he has not seen, he's only seen 1 weapon so far. What this does mean is that when he sees the weapon, he's going to see a lot of them in a hurry, which means that Leo's going to be tasked with destroying them for several turns in a row, which may allow him to, kind of retake the board as he gets the first swing of them before Leo has a chance to answer them.
And yet we've seen Leo skipping a lot of sacrifice phases along the way. Kind of holding on to his hand, keeping that card count high in his hand. Ooh, the Bad Santa is well timed. It's going to keep Black Mask from drawing his card on his turn.
And because Leo's just expanding his board, so he's just trying to make it as impressive and as imposing as possible to really challenge Black Mask to draw into a weapon, which that Bad Santa may have helped him do, actually.
Well, realistically, the Bad Santa didn't give Badaru that much, because Badaru didn't get his card draw at the start of this turn. So while the Bad Santa did likely give him the weapon, it wouldn't have been that much of a difference between his normal draw.
Yes.
There we see the Grunlers dropping. No doubt going to take out the Fury and Terror, save himself a little more HP.
Yeah.
The Crash is nowhere near as much of a threat now because its first attack is going to be cut in half and just instantly kill it. The Cobra Skin Wraps is putting in a little bit of double duty here.
Absolutely. If you're Leo, you may have cited additional ley lines. You may have the ley line or ley lines that you already had. So if I'm Leo, I anticipate lots of weapons. I knew that was going to happen, and happens later in this match than I anticipated. But I'm ready to just go forth, destroy the weapon, and just power into just eating chunks of his life away, forcing him to have multiple weapons to answer my board state.
Well, the issue with that right here is we see Battery's ability is already recharged. Blowing the weapon up, especially after you just had so many, put so many cards in his hand, relatively good chance, like you were saying earlier, he's going to be able to put 2, 3, 4 weapons out in a row at this point.
Agreed. Interesting in that Leo not able to destroy the Gremlins, or possibly electing not to.
Well, he's got out some good allies for getting around item durability. Normally, Crash is extremely effective at it, with Battery being one of the very few weapon heroes who can just outright ignore a Crash as not a threat.
Agreed. I wonder if he's electing to attack in or not, and he's going to attack and then get rid of the Cobra Skin and just eat into the durability of the Grunlers, figuring that he might not actually need a full item destruction for it. He may be able to just wear it down.
Wearing down a Grunlers is a task in and of itself, so if that's his strategy, kudos to him.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tall order.
It's also possible that he's just trying to get it down into Acid Jet range, because we mentioned earlier that might be one of the tech cards he splashes in at this point.
Yeah, that may be one of the cards that he had brought in. Maybe that was something from the board. Maybe that's something he was main decking anyways.
There we see another Cobra Skin, bringing the resource count down.
Now they are even for the first time since turn 3, I believe.
And he elects not to attack anyone, leaving the Grunlers double at relatively high health.
He elects not to attack either the Gargoyle or the hero.
Well, he's kind of taunting the Gargoyle at this point. He's basically saying, yes, you can attack me, you can get 1 damage, but I'll kill your Gargoyle for doing it.
Well, knowing his abilities up, and as you mentioned earlier, he likely has several weapons by now, considering he saw so few of them so early. He had, I believe, in his top 20 or so, he had 1 weapon, considering Badu is heavily weapon-oriented. In all likelihood, he did have 7+ options. Seeing 1 in the first half is a little bit less than optimal. He does likely have a lot of them in the second half, so he's likely seeing a lot of them now.
And it's potentially true, but at the same time, he has to be concerned about them being destroyed, about wearing out. And remember, last game, it came down to that wire of him just needing one more weapon out to be able to wrap a game up, and he lost off of it. So I think maybe he's playing a little more conservatively with his weapons this time. He's taken a lesson from the previous game.
Well, I mean, considering last game, we also saw him discard a weapon to antimatter, which he obviously doesn't have here because hasn't stolen anything except Night Prowler, which I'm intrigued to see. Maybe he sided out Night Prowler.
There we see again, he is just saying no, draw engines are not allowed in this game, except for mine.
Except for mine.
And again, not attacking with the Grunlers.
Agreed. What do you think, Chad? Would you have sided out Night Prowlers in this matchup?
Speaking of night prowling, apparently Kyle has gone AFK for a second to get up to some mischievousness. There we see Morbid Acolyte putting a little bit of work, taking that Gargoyle's ability away so that a Thaddeus can drop and finish him off rather cleanly.
Absolutely, and we can see that Leo was just expanding his board state even more, trying to diversify his threats so that Black Mask has to deal with him and has to spend a considerable enough amount of energy going after his allies and not the hero, which is something he does not want to be doing.
Well, it's interesting here. He's not attacking into the hero. He's not wearing down that Grundler's double. He's playing the world's most epic game of chicken here.
Yes, although I do believe that
We have a question in the chat. One of the viewers thinks it's unexplainable why he's not attacking. Actually, both players not attacking is a smart move. Bataru isn't doing it because he doesn't want to wear out his Grundler's double. We don't know if he has more weapons in hand yet, or if he's just trying to buy time until he gets some. Zaldar, on the other hand, is looking at it as he knows Bataru has no board wipe. He doesn't have a way to take out lots of allies at one time. If he can store up a small army, Bataru can't kill any of the allies that are out right now in one shot without help. He'd have to play a Fury and Terror and then take out one at a time on each of the allies. That means that Zaldar is going to be able to take all those allies and drive them in at one time, which gives too much damage for something like a Soul Seeker to heal back up in later turns.
yes, he's well. We can also see that Bataru's electing to not attack as much. He might attack this turn though, because he will take damage on the swing back, which is he's down to 12 health, so that will be relevant. And B, he can't kill anything in one shot. Now, as he's staring down 6 damage on board, plus another 3 damage from Zaladar, that is relevant. That is a lot of damage there. So he does need to start finding some way of dealing with these allies soon. Otherwise, he's going to take a lot of damage in a short span.
Then we see, now if I'm Bataru, I'm very, very, very nervous about this game because next turn, game is on the board. And here we see Zaldar realizes that as well and is going to drive some allies home, take out that Grundler's double's durability, and have more than enough damage on the field to wrap this up cleanly.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to use his ability to add, some extra damage to the hero, which
shockingly no. I'd be a little bit concerned now about the Bataru's ability to drop a Soul Seeker to his ability and heal right back up everything that you just did. And as if on cue, electing to take out the Gargoyle and heal himself back up. Kind of an interesting choice. I might have gone for the Thaddeus myself, because by taking out the Thaddeus, I set myself up to be able to... none of the allies can attack me without healing me except one single Morbid Acolyte, whereas the Thaddeus can still ping without me healing off of it.
Yes. Well, he went for the Gargoyle, as Gargoyle is the hardest to deal with ally overall, and just out of respect for the Gargoyle. But I agree with you, I would go for the Thaddeus as well, as all the others have to heal me if they want to do any damage.
I see from Zaldar, I'm kind of wishing I'd used my ability last turn and maybe kept the allies without attacking, and then this turn driven the allies home. But you still got some great damage on the board. The life point total still has some disparity there. So you're definitely still in control of the match. I'm not worried if I'm Zaldar. I'm just not happy at the moment.
Well, if I'm Zaldar, what I'm looking at is he played a 2-cost trap, and what I'm thinking about is that I know is what's likelihood of him having of an enchanted forest that's going to slow down my item destruction, which by that attack I guess it's indicative of him not having maybe Acid Jet in hand.
There was the Soul Reaper, kind of a checking for enchanted forest, seeing if it was there, getting a free heal out of the process.
Yes, and seeing that that is not enchanted forest.
Taking his time, dropping a Here Be Monsters for a little more cards in hand and keeping Zaldar's resources low. This time electing to go ahead and finish off that Thaddeus and close that life point disparity by as much as he can. He's making a really good game of it, but I think having to go so long and have so much shadow energy built up with no weapons to drop has really, really hurt Bataru in this match.
Absolutely. I mean, considering that Badu doesn't have access to the same type of renewal engine that, renewal card that Zelda has in Eternal Renewal, where he might have actually sided in an additional one, since this match can go really late. He has to be judicious with the last 12 cards that he has access to.
Well, Zaldar also has to be really careful knowing those Night Prowlers are there. If he drops an Eternal Renewal into his hand and then gets hit with a Night Prowler, that can actually cost him the game. I mean, you said it yourself earlier about how some cards are more effective when your opponent uses them against you, and Eternal Renewal is definitely one of those cards.
Well, absolutely.
He's going to go ahead and put a little bit more damage out with that Morbid Acolyte, get that Soul Seeker off the field.
Which, by this time, I would anticipate Black Mask having access to a fourth weapon by now, considering he only has 12 cards left.
I would be very shocked to not see another Soul Seeker drop this turn. That would be the surprise of the game.
Same for me as well.
And there it was. Ooh, and a surprise Rapid Fire. I have not seen that from Black Mask before. That was a card that definitely would have put in a lot of work earlier in the game, but it's definitely not going to be a bad play at this point either.
Absolutely not.
I mean, it's kind of humorous. We watched Black Mask a lot during the World Championship qualifier. We've been following his game all day today, and this is the first time I've seen a Rapid Fire out of his Bataru deck.
I thought we saw one in the qualifier, but maybe not. But yes, that Rapid Fire there. Now, as we mentioned 2 turns ago, this is a Night Prowler turn that does give him access to stealing a card from the opponent's hand, and without threat of penalty.
And now Zaldar's in a situation where he has to sack or play every card that he draws. I mean, this is a fantastic position for Bataru to be in.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's almost like step 1, Rapid Fire. Step 2, Night Prowler. Step 3, Prophet. I mean, that's just an incredible amount of pressure to be applying at this point.
Yeah, I wonder that essentially skip turn of playing Eternal Renewal, that have been a little bit premature there. You gotta wonder what it was that Leo stole from him.
And he chose to sacrifice the card rather than continue playing. He couldn't risk it getting stolen by Night Prowler, and obviously it wasn't going to make enough impact on the game to be played.
You gotta wonder, what was the likelihood that he just was forced to resource a mind control, considering he has no legal targets in play, and it's a card he doesn't want to face. He would rather resource than face. Interesting, you're seeing Black Mask just be judicious with his weapon durability by just not attacking there.
Well, he has to be very careful with it, because that weapon durability is what's going to win him the game at this point. He does have to be wary. I mean, we know that Zaldar runs some anti-item cards. We know that they're in there. We can't risk it for Bataru. I can't take the chance that he's got that Leyline Nexus top decked again. I need to be judicious. I need to save it up. I need to be very careful.
Electing to resource the card again.
If I'm Zaldar, I'm still not out of this game yet. Bataru only has 4 cards left before he begins taking draw damage.
Oof, I wonder what was that card that he drew there. That might have been, I mean, I don't think it would have been a second mind control that he maybe resourced if he had resourced the first one.
We also have to
But I
look. Some
don't
of the
know.
cards in his deck are things like Ironhide Crashes, which are normally a fantastic ally that you absolutely want to see be playing. But in this instance, you don't want to put it out because it's just going to heal him with Soul Seeker. So it's almost better to just take the damage yourself than to let him heal at this point.
That could easily be the case.
Interestingly, we don't see Zaldar leveraging his antimatter at all. He's just not willing to gamble that he's going to draw a card he can't immediately play. Though I can't imagine a card that he couldn't immediately play.
Uh,
Ooh, and that Leyline Nexus deflected by the Enchanted
that's
Forest.
going to hurt an awful lot because that enchanted oak just allowed him to steal the Leyline Nexus, which is so pivotal in this matchup.
It's going to take it away from Zaldar. It's just a perfect card. I also have to remember, we know that Bataru took a card from Zaldar. He's holding one of Zaldar's cards in his hand. What does he have?
No way to tell, but we know he has the Leyline now.
Well, if I'm Zaldar, I'm having to play around whatever it is that Bataru is holding right now. I'm just not pleased with that at all.
And Bedru likely has his ability up for a possible swing with another weapon.
It's curious if he's going to utilize that or if he's just going to hold off. Oh, he is going to go ahead and get that extra swing in, it looks like.
Well, knowing that he stole Night Prowl and his opponent is essentially living off the top of his deck, he might just be, taking this as an opportunity to turn the corner and just push through as much damage as possible, knowing that his opponent's hero ability doesn't really do much for him right now.
Here we see Zaldar realizing that he's on the clock. The Bataru has enough damage almost to wrap this up neatly. He needs to start getting cards onto the field.
Yeah, he's on a 2-turn clock. I'm not altogether sure if that'll be enough.
It's going to be close, especially with that deck damage about to become very, very relevant. You saw there, he got the mind control, but he immediately had to discard it because it would have been stuck in his hand and forced him to give it to Bataru. At this point, you really do not want to be giving Bataru anything.
Agreed.
At this point, I don't know of a card in the game that Zaldar could pull that would actually allow him to win. With him only having 2 health, if Bataru was holding on to a weapon, that is most likely GG.
Yeah. Well, a mind control there would have been the optimal play for him. Yeah, this is like the game here.
It's going to come down to it. If Bataru is holding a weapon, yep, K. Leo has realized he... Yep, K. Leo realized there was nothing he could do about that. He was about to take a beating, so he decided to just bow out gracefully and get the next game going. Speaking of next games, it's important to note for you guys that we do break the streams up at every 2-hour marker so that we can export it to YouTube. And we are 15 minutes shy of the next marker, so we probably do not have enough time to watch Game 3 of that with Lewis and I commentating. I will leave it to GDC and Trevor to decide which games they want to play, or spectate I should say. With that in mind, Busty has 2-1 Justicar, Vact has 2-1 Imigor, and Monomox has clean sweeped a 2-0 on Karapak. Now, for those of you who are curious what that looks like on the looks like one of them has not updated just yet, but should be here any second. Looks like we have all of our round 2 people are ready to play and are going right now, while we are just waiting on K, Leo, and Black Mask to finish up. So, Lewis, any comments on how the tournament's progressed so far?
No, I think it's progressed well. I think one of the big things is that we're seeing that again. Lion Dragon is showing that he's just an Iron Man who is immune to loss of stamina, and we're seeing players like Jackie and iClips trying to make a strong push today to make up for their unfortunate losses yesterday. Slowtown as well. Yeah, I believe Monomax won a round yesterday.
Well, again, I mean, these are all extremely high-level competitors. Even those people that have already been knocked down to the losers bracket, I would not count them out. Literally, at this point in the tournament, any member of the 16 competitors could still come out of this as the world champion.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Nobody is out of it right now. Although it's really going to push some different players to see can they buckle down in the losers bracket.
And we have word, if I'm interpreting it correctly, from GDC that they're going to want to pick up the deciding match and view Game 3 of that. So Lewis and I are going to shut up now and let them take over. Guys, it's been a blast, and we'll see you in about 2 hours.
Yes, we'll be back in around that time for you guys.